back here on Going Over. This is Zach Primetime Reeb. And like I said, just your neighborhood friendly coach, wrestling trainer, promoter, professional wrestling 43-year-old. And I'm joined alongside my podcast colleague, the 7-foot wrecking ball, Paul Isadora. What's up, Paul?
Oh, not much, man. Just another cold day in Reno, Nevada. Just we're out there kind of getting things together, trying to figure out, getting prepared to start the next training session at the Reno Wrestle Factory. So trying to get that all together and trying to field the applicants. So exciting time. I know you're getting back into that as well. You'll have another class starting the beginning of the year. So I guess topic for today, man, we're going to talk a little bit about, we've already kind of talked about how to get into the business, like where you should train, things like that. But I feel like maybe the next step is after you've done your training, however long that takes, right? We kind of talked about maybe it's a number of hours, maybe it's some people say it's going to be a certain amount of months or based off of readiness. But regardless of what that actual magic number is, when you finally, I would say, get the permission of your trainer. When your trainer goes, you know what? Yeah, you're ready. It's go time. Let's get you out there. Let's get you on the road, or let's just get you started here at our home promotion, right? What does that look like? As far as what type of match should that be? What should you be looking to do? Baby face, heel. What type of factors come into that when you're talking about when you're going to let that student go out there and get that first taste? What does that look like?
Well, definitely depending on the towns and you're running in. So the first thing you're going to do is that student's going to go out there and they're going to put on just a random singlet. It should be something handed down from the coach, just a singlet or a pair of trunks. I think it's funny, funny when guys go out there in a little pair of trunks, but it's a beatdown match. It's a jobber match. It's what we got into the other day where we were talking about it. And a lot of guys have forgotten what it is. And a lot of people don't want to do it because they feel bad doing it nowadays, but it's a part of wrestling, the squash match. And
right. So yeah, and then we were talking about, like, so should it be, should you be working baby face or heel? So I'm assuming squash match, it's not really going to matter, right? Either way, it's going to be either like a good guy that you're trying to get some exposure and maybe make a run at something, so they're going to squash somebody, or maybe it's going to be a bad guy and you got this new white meat baby face prospect that you're going to bring into there. So what does that look like? Normally, what do you think time frame? How long is that match going to go? Does this person what are they allowed to do in a squash match?
Well, they shouldn't be allowed to do nothing. There should be no talking about this at all. So that just depends. So if you're a baby face in the squash match, you're going to go out there in 2 minutes. You're going to get the shit beat out of you, and that's it. Game over. That's what you're doing. You might sell a little bit. You're going to get bumped around. I don't need to tell you what you're doing, because if you're going to go out there in a squash match, you're going to get body slammed. You're going to get suplexed. You're going to get whipped to the corners. You're just going to get beat on. Your job is to just make that guy look good so he doesn't have to drag a sack of shit around the ring for 2 minutes. And but on the other hand, we just saw this at your show where one of my guys debuted, and he actually had a little bit of character to what he was doing, and he didn't get shit. He didn't knock the guy off his feet. He didn't gain any offensive offense that was going to do anything formidable in the match, but he was entertaining. So because of being entertaining, he was allowed, not allowed, but he got about 4 or 5 minutes out of the contest because of the way he was working the audience. So, but actual ring time of what he did was about 2 minutes, man. So you can always go back and watch all the old WWF wrestling challenges and superstars, because the squash match is such a vital part of growing and developing future talent. And we've gotten so far away from the squash match where people are just like, I felt bad not giving the guy some offense. I don't give a fuck. Beat that's your job tonight. That's what you're getting paid for. That's why you've been booked, is for a squash match. So, slap the guy in a singlet or something that makes him he doesn't have to look like anything. He doesn't need music. He can follow the referee out to the ring. Here comes Big Paul Isadora, and currently in the ring. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean?
Right. Brand new guy, wrestler A, B, C, right? So yeah, so I mean, you talked a little bit about both of those situations, right? You talked about being a baby face and getting out there and in a couple minutes just getting destroyed by this, heel, right? You want to get that point over. Like this guy is just out there beating people up, right? No mercy. Um, and I think in a lot of cases, it's like maybe even as a heel, generally you say, oh, well, the heel is going to get out wrestled, but maybe you have a case where the heel is out wrestling this baby face and just throwing him all over the place, right? Doing whatever he wants to do, this baby face is at his mercy, right? So just whatever he does, and then you talked about your two guys, and one guy comes out as the heel, right? So he's trying to get a crowd reaction, make sure that these fans hate him and cheer when he gets his ass kicked by the baby face, right? So and I think too many people, they're concerned with how many moves am I going to get, and I got to get some stuff in there and stuff like that. But what I like so much about that squash match that we had there. Was the heel, he was trying to get some just punches and kicks in, right? Like just strikes, trying to get some strikes in there and getting shut down, right? And then the story, he felt like he got something big, right? He hit him with a big right hand, and he thought, oh, that really did something. And then come to find out, it didn't do what he thought it did. And that just told so much better of a story when he realized, he thought he was tough shit, and he thought his right hand was power packed, and then came to find out that wasn't the case, and walked into getting squashed literally, right? So I don't know. I definitely like that. What's your opinion of the first time someone gets in the ring, not having a match, having being in like a battle royal, right, where they have limited skills, things they know how to do, right? So they know how to take a lot of just basic bumps, right, and hopefully they know how to take a buckle and throw punches and kicks and sell, right? Just all the kind of the basic stuff that we kind of lay out in the first, period of time, maybe the first beginner's class, or whatever they're going to get, where you feel like, okay, well, they've kind of showed that they can take an ass kicking. They know how to throw some basic strikes. You taught them some basic stuff. So what do you think about that? Like, that's their first opportunity, is getting into a battle royal. How long should they stay in there? What type of learning do you think that they're what are you expecting them to get in that first battle royal?
You gotta gauge the level of talent that's in there, in the student athleticism wise and all that. But You're basically, when you send them out there, you're just sending a guy out there to get in front of the audience. He's got to get in that spandex, and he's got to get over that discomfort of walking out the curtain, because you're not picking some badass licensed music. You're not coming out the curtain. You're not gonna be a badass here tonight. You're gonna make that awkward walk to the ring, probably with no music. And you're gonna have to get in the ring, and you're gonna have to talk to an audience that has no clue who you are, and they have no idea what you're about. And the first thing they're going to see is you getting the shit beat out of yourself. And I get it. Nowadays, everyone's selling tickets. So they don't want to sell a ticket and go, hey, come watch me wrestle. And then I get the shit beat out of me with no offensive moves. But, it's like stand up comedy. They always say when you're going to do stand up comedy, you don't want to invite all your friends to go watch you do stand up comedy, because they're just going to laugh and show support. So you kind of want to, you not kind of, but you want to do your stand-up comedy where you don't know anybody there. So if you get some laughs, they're genuine, authentic laughs. And it's the same goes with when you debut to wrestle, man. Is That's kind of the formula that these guys are running in. All right, we're in, for your sake, you're in Reno, you're in Winnemucca, say Fernley. So you got three, let's say you're running three towns. I got Yuba City, I got Oroville, I got Red Bluff. So that first run you take through those three towns, you send that beginning wrestler out there, and he jobs, and he gets the shit beat out of him for, I don't know, 2 minutes. We're gonna go 2 minutes. Your entrance to the entrance to the ring and exit is longer than what this poor guy, poor kid, as we say, is going to get inside the squared circle. And then when we make that run back around, maybe that kid gets a crossbody block. Maybe he gets a roll up or a sunset flip or a victory, something. He gets a little offense. His match stretches around the same time, but he gets a little bit of offense the next time through these towns. And now these towns have seen this kid a couple times now. And then when we make that third run back around through that town, if that's what we're doing, now the kid actually poses a threat on a 6 to 7 minute match when they're timing it like that. So when the announcer goes 5 minutes have elapsed, we let the kid go to a finish. So now he's worked three towns, and he's worked three squash matches. He's worked three matches where he gets a crossbody in one, a sunset flip in the other, a hip toss or an arm drag, something. He gets an offensive move and then gets shut down. Then we come back around, and he gets a couple more offensive moves in his arsenal, and then actually gets a little finish. So now he's been around 9 months, and he's got 9 matches, whatever, 9, 12 matches, and he's getting comfortable in the ring. And now we can sit here and we can say, hey, you know what? What are we going to do with this guy coming into the next year? Because we trained him, we put him in a couple battle royals or rumbles or whatever the hell we did. We fed him some squashes. We fed him another round of squashes where we let him in each squash. If you're in three towns, we let him hit a different offensive move in each town, just something little, just to see how he plays the crowd with that. And then we gave him a little a mini match to end it. So now we're like, all right, he has progressed and done everything that we've asked through the year. So we've closed out 2024. This kid did a good job. Here we go in 2025. And on top of that, too, when we start doing the squash matches, that's about the time that we would send this kid out to other promotions. We would send him, to Sacramento, or we'd send him, just send him around and let him start gaining some of that experience on his own at other places to really find out who he is.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think it's, we kind of glossed over the battle royal portion, and I think I kind of
Oh,
skipped a
shit.
little bit of the learning how to go out of the ring, right? So definitely important to be able to go backwards over the top rope, to go forwards over the top rope, things like that. So I think about training myself and how many times I got clotheslined over the top, or somebody drop kicked me, or give me some big move where I could feed into the ropes and go over backwards, to the point where that's probably my most comfortable way of going out of the ring. But like, at what point do you go? You have enough experience to kind of have that opportunity. Like, you're going to go in a battle royal, and you're confident enough this guy isn't going to get himself hurt, getting eliminated, and obviously you want to really set the expectations that, hey, you're going to go in there, you're going to get your ass handed to you, and then someone's going to tell you, hey, it's your turn to go out, and you're going to go, yes sir, I'm out of here, right? So how do you kind of build up to that? Like, what do you feel like comfort level wise? um how long do you think it normally takes, like getting clothesline over the top and going, I mean, I know that we do a lot of different things. We go clothesline over the top, we go, shit can over the top, we go through the middle, forwards and backwards. How long, or how much do you have to go through that before you go, okay, this guy's ready to be safe, not get hurt in a battle royal? How long do you think that's going to take?
I mean, that could vary. It varies on the size and athleticism. Like, not everybody can go backwards over the top rope like you can at 7 feet, 300 pounds. You know what I mean? You're a former professional basketball player. You're an athlete. So watching you go over that top rope, hook it, and go over backwards fast is, when you're there live, man, that's fucking impressive, because you're like, Jesus Christ, dude, here's this 7-foot guy just zinging himself over backwards, landing safely and spilling to the floor. And there's so many guys that are 150 to 180 pounds who can't even do that. So the first thing you're going to have to do to get somebody ready for that situation is you're going to have to shit can them through the middle rope, which is a lot of what we do. That's what I make the guys do at the end of practice. So say they run 10 ropes and then they're ducking, going over the drop down, whatever, at the end of the, then they're going to take a bump. They're going to take a snap bump off a clothesline, sell, and then they're going to feed up, and the guy's going to shit can him out of the ring through the middle rope. Left hand on the rope, right hand on the apron, and to the floor, doing this so that they don't hit the fucking side apron. And there's a lot of people that can't do it without hitting, or just clunking into that fucking side apron. So first, when they put the hand on the back of the neck and then hook those shit, that's how class ends for me, is like, shit can this guy out of here and you're done. So once you've shit canned him through the middle and he starts to get that, now you're going into, all right, I'm going to grab you the same way, but I'm going to grab you just around the neck, and now I'm going to throw you over the top rope. So now we got to get these guys going over the top rope, because when we talk about going backwards, that's a whole nother fucking ball game right there. And it's actually easier to go backwards over the top rope with that distance than it is to go through that middle rope. And that's one thing I found out when I started training with Oliver John, for like a year and a half, when I was working with him 3 times a week. You're taking drop kicks, and then you kind of do the little Mac from Mike Tyson's Punch Out backwards, and you hook that rope. You're taking that same backwards almost loop through that rope, but you're doing it to where your knees and your hip don't want to touch. So going backwards through that middle rope is definitely the hardest exit you can do out of the ring. The scariest exit you're going to do going out of the ring is going over backwards. And I see a lot of guys, man, a lot of guys, especially nowadays, especially when I go to these training camps, when you go, hey, today we're going over the top rope backwards. And they're scared as shit, and I get it, but they can't even do it on their own, hooking up and jumping over. And it's like, to be clothesline full speed and be able to control yourself without striking your kneecaps or shin on that apron. So, to answer that question, honestly, man, we got to shit can them through the middle rope first. And if they can make it through that middle rope and land safely on the ground, then now we can throw you over the top rope. And then once they do that, we go, all right, buddy, it's going to be a rough day today. because we're going over backwards and we're not going to pull the fucking crash pad out. And if some over anxious students want to go over there, and I mean, we clotheslined. Rayshawn went over backwards one time, and it was the weirdest thing. He doesn't like to go over backwards, and he landed on that side piece, that side metal piece. So he missed the side apron, and he goes over backwards, and he lands with his oh, there it was. He I'm going over backwards now. He lands with his feet on the side piece before you touch the ground. I was like, man, that's a pretty good shot right there, once in a lifetime.
Right,
But
exactly.
it's dangerous, man. That's one of the most dangerous moves in wrestling. And you see guys like you see Alex Ace, man. You see Alex Ace go over backwards, and what athleticism. You see Kane and Big Show and Undertaker. And I mean, you guys are big fucking guys, man. So when I see little guys and little athletes not able to do it, I always refer to you. I go, man, I know this dude who's 7 foot, 300 something pounds that zings over that fucking thing backwards, man.
Right, exactly. We talked about those. You've run that little loop with having guys in your own promotion getting squashed, getting a little bit of offense, maybe getting to a finish. We know when there's some sort of false finish in there. But when you send guys to another promotion, right? You go, hey, I think you're ready. Go out there, get some experience. Go out and work with some other guys. Work for a different promoter. What type of advice do you give these guys when they're heading to another promotion? I'm thinking about when we would send guys out for the first time, when we weren't going with them, right? When they're going to go and deal with a promoter by themselves and get themselves booked in a match by themselves, where there's not really an opportunity for us to kind of hold their hand, for lack of a better description. But so they get out there. What type of advice do you give them? Like, they're going to go out there, they're going to work with someone, hopefully, that they've never met before, right? I think that's something that's really important when you first get in there, right? Because you're going to have a certain training style. I'm going to have a certain training style. But as much similarity as there's going to be between our training styles, there's also going to be some differences, right? So how do you get them prepared for maybe the way that someone's going to call something, right? Because a lot of times I'm going to say drop down, right? And a lot of other people are going to say step over. So how do you get them prepared for not only dealing with a new promoter, maybe having to wrestle somebody that they've never wrestled before, but also be prepared for some of the different terminology that they might hear that they're not familiar with. So how do you go about, getting these guys ready for that type of stuff?
Well, first and foremost, I've been labeled the big bad wolf of professional wrestling in NorCal since I was 17 years of age. Okay. And there's been a lot of bad apples, man. There's been a lot of bad apples with the coming out of PCW many, many times. So one thing I really stress to these guys is be on time. If you're calling a call time of 2:00, be there at 1:00, man. Don't be there at 1:30. Don't be there on time. Find out when they're setting up the ring. Help with the ring. Shake everybody's hand, and just be cordial. If anything needs to be done, help somebody out. Shut your fucking mouth. Open up your fucking ears, and just be a help. Be an asset to the promoter. Don't ask the promoter too many questions, because God knows we're busy, man. We are. Real promoters are actually busy, because we got people flying in, we got things to set up, we got concession to get, we got a card to put together, we got the music. For myself, there's stock footage, there's photos, there's segments for Limelight, there's interviews, there's all kinds of stuff, man. So if somebody just wants to come up to me and talk my head off about something, it's going to piss me off, because I don't have time to do that. So, get in there, shake hands, help with the ring. Definitely help breaking that ring down, man. If you want to come back somewhere, just fucking help the promoter out. Even if he doesn't need the help, drag some ropes, move some metal, pull some wood, do something like that. Now, as far as the terminology goes, I mean, that's still an issue today. I can think of a couple times I've almost pulled my groin here recently where the guy was fighting off. And I just told him, I said, come off the ropes and eat a knee. I said, eat a knee. I didn't say kitchen sink. So when he came off the rope, I gave him the table left leg right here, and I'm expecting them to, post off of it and, flip and bump for me. And they just ran straight through me. And now my right foot is planted and my left leg is turned up sideways to give them a nice a table to flip over. And they tear my whole leg this way. And you've seen it. I end up on the ground. And the terminology is different. What some people call when you get shot to the corner and you boost up over them, some people call it an up and over. Some people call it a tip up. Some people call a tip up when you duck down and you tip them up over the corner. Some people call that an up and over. When I was in Japan, a lot of stuff was differently. Like they called a clothesline a Laredo. So, and a lariat, I get that, but I would just tell someone I'm used to if I got you in a headlock and we're on the mat and I'm going to tackle you. And then when you get up, I'm going to take you back in that headlock. I tell them tackle, get it again, meaning that I'm going to get that hold again. And then the way I came up in the business, if I'm going to tackle you, come off the ropes, and then you're going to take a move, you're going to hit me with an arm drag, I would tell you tackle, drop down, take an arm drag. Where a lot of guys nowadays, if they were to hear me say take an arm drag, they would think that I was going to throw the arm drag. You know what I mean? Like you're going to take it from me. But it's like I say, like, here, hold my water bottle. There it is. And then I snatch it from you. What I do, I took it. So it's wrestling terminology that we use to shorten up the spots or spot that we're calling in the mat. So I mean, I can't give that advice because a lot of stuff nowadays is not organically called in the ring on the fly, which we're going to get into down the road on the psychology of everything. But I guess the best advice I could give one of my students is if they're going somewhere, just tell the person, hey, what are you going to cut me off with? When are we going to go to the comeback and the finish? Because even if you're trying to choreograph everything, I feel like that baby face out wrestling the heel with the chain and all that at the start, that's just that should be common knowledge when you come to the training portion of it. And the heat should also be too. So flipping back, and I want to hear from you. We were talking about guys debuting, and just I want to say this and then get your opinion on it. So I think a lot of guys, unless somebody is unathletic, you know what I mean, unless they're not going to go up for a backdrop or do a leapfrog or stuff like that, I feel like the baby face is, the guy's always going to start out his career as the baby face unless he can't do that. So as a heel starting out in the business, you got to be able to sell and you got to be able to bump for the baby face. And that's it. We can talk about all the other stuff, character, whatever, but the heel's got to be able to bump for the baby face and he's got to be able to throw good heat. He's got to throw heat and he's got to be able to bump. And the baby's got to be able to sell and he's got to be able to string his offense together at the end. He's just got to sell and gain some sympathy for himself. So when we're talking about that, my big question I have for you, Mr. Wrecking Ball, is when we're in this ring and you see these guys in the locker room, what advice I'm interested, what advice would you give them? Because I know that I've told them, like, how to talk to the person they're wrestling. What do you think, and what advice would you give a student of yours if they're in the locker room and somebody is calling forearm for forearm, chop for chop, headlock for headlock? What would be your advice to somebody who's getting from start to finish something just completely planned out?
I mean, I think you and I talk about it all the time, but it's just about how you got to listen to the crowd and um, let them dictate it, because you truly don't know when you get out there that this choreographed match that you think the crowd is going to react a certain way. You never know what they're going to do. So um, you know, I mean, I like to talk about a little bit of the beginning, somehow how we're going to switch momentum. Um, maybe the things that they like to do as far as moves I'm going to be able to take, things I like to do. So we know when we're out there and I call something that it's not like I just said, like it's not just a foreign language where they go, I have no idea what that means. Because I remember calling a reverse knife edge, right? And I think it's an older term. So, and obviously, if I would just say chop, it's going to shorten it too. So uh, I look at it from both sides, too much verbiage on my part, but also something that I just want them to know that, they're going to be coming to one side and I'm going to be basically backhanding them versus if I was going to throw an overhead chop. So in my mind, it made sense, but this person had no idea what I was talking about. So um, I think stuff like that, like you need to kind of know, like, where's the comfort zone of your opponent, and they need to know what the comfort zone of your comfort zone is as well. Um, so I guess getting back to the original question is, um, don't choreograph the whole match, because um, I can't remember everything. I mean, obviously there's guys that can remember from start to finish, but I'm not that guy. I'm gonna be more of um, I want to set a structure of the match, of the story that we're gonna tell, and I've told your guys, I've told my guys, I've told just random people about using an anchor hold or an anchor body part, where if I get lost, I'm going back to this body part, or if you get lost, you're going back to this body part on me. So right. So yeah. So I just cringe at the thought of trying to remember an entire series of matches, or a series of moves or whatever. Because I think it's just, and the matches that we've watched recently, um, I think a common thing that we always talk about is that people are not working the crowd. And as a result of not working the crowd, they're also not listening to the crowd to know, like, hey, this crowd is coming up. Like, maybe we switch possession, maybe, if you want to say that. Like, I'm not going to be throwing the offense now. I'm going to give you an opportunity to evade something that I'm doing and catch me off guard with something. Um, but that has to be when the time is right, when the crowd is ready for it, when they're anticipating it, right? Maybe give them a little reward for cheering and being involved in the match, and things like that, where you're going to try to build up to getting a bigger reaction later in the contest. Um, so that's kind of how I guess I would go about that. I was trying to. Oh yeah, the question I was thinking about was, um, you were talking about call time, right? Call time, get there early, help set up, stuff like that. But what if there's an instance where, you're not booked on a show, but maybe somebody that you train with is. Talk about how important it is to just show your face at different promotions and the type of opportunities that may be a result of going to a show you're not booked on, and just doing those things that you talked about, right? The helping out with the ring, right? You talked about, moving iron, moving wood, setting up chairs, helping with concessions, working security. um, what type of opportunities do you think that earns with you as a promoter, when you see somebody over and over and over, even though they're not even booked on your show, but they're helping out?
Every opportunity in the world. I'm always going to go after the guy that I see consistently in my show. If I'm at a show and I keep looking over and here comes this, you don't know how many people have been booked on my show because somebody didn't show up or somebody just continued to show up. And especially if they show up to train, if they go out of their way to show up to train, I mean, I'm almost always trying to find something for that person to do because you said it right there, but in the business, it's out of sight, out of mind. If I don't see you, even if you're a professional wrestler, even if we have talked at a previous show or something, if I'm not in contact with you, I'm gonna forget about you. I'm a big proponent of talking to guys on the phone. I talk to you every day on the phone. I talk to all my talent on the phone. I talk to guys that are not my guys, but that I use frequently, consistently on the phone. I'm consistently bothering them. I'm at a point right now where I've been hitting these guys up, like 3 or 4 guys, and we know where we're going. They like the plan. We know where we're going, but I keep saying, "Hey man, can I get that footage from you? This is what I need you to film. Can you just send me this shit so I can send it to my production guys and they can get these things cooking for us so we can start promoting you?" Because I'm not interested. Let's just say I have an amazing physical specimen over here, good body, good worker, whatever, but he ain't getting me my shit. He ain't answering his phone call and he's missed a couple shows. But then on the other hand, I got this hungry individual over here who doesn't have as good a body. He is definitely not as experienced as not a good worker, but he's willing to hold the camera. He's willing to fucking film the shit that I would need somebody to film so that I can get out there to promote this character on my show. So 100%, if I would tell these guys if they're out there right now, I remember when Brian Cage, we got him, he was down at APW. I think he won the internet title. We were all driving down to APW. I just got him on there. And I remember he was just like, "Hey man, I'm heading wherever fucking Deep South Wrestling was." Like, I guess Canyon had told him, like, I talked to Hugh Morris or whoever it was and come on down. And Brian just packed his shit. As gross as that sounds, Brian just packed his shit up and just fucking took that drive to, I forget where Deep South was. It was in a southern state somewhere. And he
Yeah,
showed
it
up
was in trying to think of, in Georgia.
something like
Um,
that, right?
yeah, definitely. Um, I know the town. It's the same town that Summit Racing is located.
Yeah,
Um,
showed up.
I'll think about it. But yeah, so yeah, just go take your shit and take a chance on yourself, right?
You know what we need? Yeah, but you know what we need? We need someone sitting on each one of our couches to go Google that shit. As we
Yeah,
get further along, we're gonna
it's
Google that
it's
shit.
it's McDonough, Georgia. McDonough, Georgia. That's where that Deep South was.
There you go. You're our Googler
I'm
on
the
this
Google.
show.
Yeah, just
We're gonna get this, man. We're gonna play this shit to perfection. But yeah,
that's it.
he just got in his car and went to Georgia.
Yep.
And he showed up there where Deep South Wrestling was, and he knocked on the fucking door, and they're like, "Who the fuck are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm Brian." And Hugh Morris, it was like, well, no, we didn't talk to Canyon. He didn't say nobody was coming down. But they're like, "Hey, dude, this kid who's obviously in good shape just drove from Northern California, packed up his car and drove to Georgia, and now he's knocking on the door here because he wants to train." They let him in. That's how it all started for him. He just showed up. And they're like, fuck, good athletic looking kid right here. He drove all the way from Georgia. Why wouldn't you? I tell guys all the time, some guys ask me, they're like, hey man, how do I get on as an extra with AEW? It's like, well, we know Jack, we know Thunder Rosa, we know Powerhouse, we know Will, we know God, who else? Brian's there. So all these guys, we already have all these connections and ins with these places, but they're waiting around for AEW to come to like locally, Sacramento or Fresno or Stockton. And it's like, nah, man, get in your car, get on an airplane. Me, Rick Luxury, you, whoever, we can get a hold of that person there and say, hey, do you got any extra work? Where are you guys at? We're in Toledo. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, you're in fucking Toledo, huh? Well, what if my guy is willing to get on an airplane and fly himself out to Toledo for that round of shows, showing up? I mean, if you ran a business, well, you do, but I mean, if you're running a business like that, and some guy is willing to fly himself out to get extra work on your promotion, I mean that's kind of a no-brainer, right? Kind of a
Of course.
no-brainer in that situation.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that's always my favorite price to pay somebody is free. When they just come and volunteer, right?
Yeah.
Come and volunteer to help. And I mean, we've made that super clear to all of our students. Like, hey, if we're going to a show, you're always welcome to jump in the car and come with us, because what it's going to end up getting you is, hey, that's one of your guys, right? Such and such didn't show up. Do they have their gear? And the answer is always going to be yes. With the exception of one time that I can remember. We had the student Spencer that would, for some reason, we went to a show. He showed up. They're like, oh, hey, somebody, missed, canceled or whatever. You got your gear? And he's like, no. So no one told me to bring my gear, or why would I bring it? I'm not booked, or something like that. It's like, okay, perfect. This is your learning experience. You lost out on this booking because you didn't bring your stuff, man. So, but yeah, so I think it's just one of those things, man. I love it when those guys show up. We would always bring our guys with us because of that exact fact, right? Because the majority of the time, if they're coming somewhere with you, they're coming somewhere with me, the promoter just automatically assumes if they're training with you, they're training with, what was that?
Did you see that? You froze up for a minute. I saw the duck come in.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
I was listening, but I lost you.
Got it. I'm just saying, showing up to shows, and if somebody shows up with you or they show up with me, it's just assumed that they are somebody that we trust, and they can go, right? So it's like, okay, well, I've seen that guy with Zach the last 6 shows, or I've seen that guy with Paul the last couple shows. So obviously he's a guy that they trust, and I can trust to put in the ring and go have a match, right? So I think it's just important to do those things, right? If you're training to be a pro wrestler, get in those cars, travel to a promotion, help out, do all the little things that promoters love to get for free, right? Like you talked about, holding the camera, setting up a ring, working concessions, security. All these things are beneficial and kind of are a foot in the door to get you going in the business. So, yeah, man, I just think that those are those super important things, moving forward. So I guess, like, at what point are we going to start, giving these people an opportunity, right? So they've gone on the road with us. Maybe they've worked some towns. You start building some trust in them, right? They can go out there, they can get squashed. They can go out there and they can listen and get a move in there. They can go out there and they can listen. They can get to where they get a false finish. At what point after that do you start putting some trust in them, into being a legit part of what you're doing storyline wise, and try to get them in there, right? we just tried to do that with somebody that had trained a little bit here and then has been training with you every Sunday. But apparently we didn't do a fantastic job of letting them know what exactly getting squashed was going to look like, as much as we thought it was very, very clear on what that entailed. But so when do you start putting some trust in them? I mean, is it you just start seeing some flashes of brilliance and you go, okay, this guy can get into we can put this guy into some sort of storyline and start using him on a regular basis? Or do you have to string that out? I mean, we talked about kind of a 9-month plan of getting them going in some small time stuff where they're not really getting any offense, they're not going to have an opportunity to win. But at what point do you start giving them a little bit more trust and involving them into things that you're doing long term?
Well, I mean, that's the I think I keep saying I think there's a lot of student showcases, and there's a lot of and that was the whole purpose of this prospect brand I came up with, was to give these young students, interview segments in the back, to give these young students a chance to develop, to take photos, to do interviews, to film segments, to have live commentary, to be on a signature video before a show starts. I think you have to definitely develop these students, and it starts with logging the hours in. And if they're not willing, if they're not available on the weekend, if you have a kid and you're like, hey, I'm going to take you with me to this show and I'm going to try to get you on it, you're probably going to get the shit beat out of you. Here's an old rusty singlet and some knee pads, which you should already have your knee pads. But I think you got to take these guys out there, especially when you run, when you run your own promotion. I feel like you have to get them on the road and taking some other bookings. And it's nothing bad towards the other promotion. But as I'm grooming a student and we're developing him, I would rather him show up somewhere else and eat shit and learn rather than do it on my show. You know what I mean? Like, I would rather him get out there and gain this experience somewhere else, so that when he's gone through these choreographed matches, when he's had to, when he lost his spot and he has to get the match back under control, he's learning this somewhere else, so that when he comes back and then he's ready to do what we're doing. And that's what I thought. I like the idea of the student showcase, but I wanted to do the student showcase more like it was its own brand and it was his own show, so that everybody could get more comfortable in use. It's like NXT. What NXT used to be, what it's doing right now, is it's a platform for these guys to go out there, and they're not on Monday, they're not on Raw, they're not on SmackDown, they're not on the pay-per-view, but they're able to get produced. I mean, they're produced by Shawn Michaels. You know what I mean? Triple H is coming down there. CM Punk's been playing around. So I know when we did that Young Lions Cup, the first person I called you, and I said, hey man, what are you doing? And would you like to come down, and would you like to talk over and agent these matches in the locker room? And that's because we talked about it on the previous podcast with Boyce LeGrand. Why wouldn't we want Boyce LeGrand in the locker room? I actually just saw clips from a gauntlet match where Boyce was down at East Bay Pro working 5 of their training students that are now in the ring. Hey, I'm not ever going to argue with that, because all 5 of those students just got 5 to 10 minutes live in the ring with Boyce LeGrand. That's the best experience they're going to get. So as far as that goes, when you're talking about that, yeah, get in the car, get out on the road, and the opportunity is going to open itself up. I mean, how many times do we see Big Ugly say, hey, I got some open spots on the card? How many open spots did you have on the card? How many open spots have I seen at a Next Level or something like that? Like, there's so much wrestling going on, and there's so many open spots, and everybody's looking for the next piece of talent that's going to come in and help them load the ring and help them unload the ring and put up some flyers and sell some tickets and show up and just not be a complete fucking shithead. So right now, the opportunity to get on, at so many different places to get out there and get the experiences there. So if you're not getting in a car and showing up somewhere, you're just a dipshit because the opportunity is right there.
Exactly. You think about, like, you know, everybody, I feel like when they start training, they want to tell you how badly they want this, or I've wanted to be a pro wrestler since I was a kid, or, all the, I feel like all the generic ones that we hear about how badly somebody wants to be a part of the professional wrestling business. So it always disappoints me when you have, I'm going to run training 3 times a week, but this person can only make it once. Or I'm going to make, I'm going to 4 shows on 4 consecutive weekends, but somebody can't get in the car and go along, right? You obviously you have to make a living, right? Especially when you're first starting in the professional wrestling business. But if you want it as bad as you say you want it, those are sacrifices that you make, right? I remember countless people that would have a job for however long, and then the job would do, well, we need to start working on Saturdays. It's like, yeah, no problem. I'll work on Saturdays. And then when that first Saturday show comes up, they just quit the job, right? Like, I'll just find another job because I want to be a pro wrestler. So that's when you kind of start determining how badly somebody wants this, right? They're willing to job hop or whatever. You hear so many stories of, I slept in my car. You were telling me about a student driving from here to Yuba City, and was there when you got to the building, and they were sleeping in their car. Because they wanted to get in the ring and they wanted to get that training. And if you're going to offer 4 hours of training, they're going to take advantage of all 4 hours. It's not like, hey, we're going to be there at 10, so they show up at 10. They're sitting there at 7:30, just in case you get there early and you open up the ring, and they can sneak in there and get an extra, half hour or an hour, just one-on-one, right? There's so many opportunities like that. And I think about how many people, I mean, you and I have talked about, when you had Ray, Sean, and Jesse, and it was like, can we stay till 2 a.m, right? Because we just want to go over stuff. We want to learn more stuff. And we talked about that's how we're logging hours. We're getting those extra hours when other people aren't willing to get there. And my example has always been going on my lunch break from work to try to get an extra 40 minutes a couple times a week, just so I can sit there and listen to other people, whatever they're doing. They're working on some sort of psychology or ring placement, or all the little subtle things that we can learn from the more experienced guys. And I think those are the things that you look at when you go, this person really wants to be a part of this business. All the little things that they'll do to do that. Like, you have, obviously I just talked about an example that you already had, but what other kind of things do you see? I mean, because I know sometimes you have huge classes show up on certain days, and sometimes you don't. But what's the kind of the common denominator of those people that are there all the time and want to get better, as far as correlating to getting in there and actually making something of this pro wrestling thing, getting opportunities?
Oh, it's the work, man. You can see the extra hours that these guys and girls. I say girls because Annabelle, who comes from Reno up there. I mean, this girl, we had a series of shows all over, and she would come down on a Saturday, go to the show, help set up at a show, and help break down. and then she'd crash in the spare room and get up the next day and put in training. And then she had days off at work to where she was coming down. She'll come down on a Thursday, train, drive all the way back to Reno, and then turn around and be back down here for a show on Saturday and then training on Sunday, or just drive all the way from Reno and train on a Thursday, drive all the way back home, and then drive all the way down and be here at 10 a.m. on Sunday, and then turn around and drive all the way home. So for me, when I see somebody like that, I go, okay, that person really gives a shit. And what that does is it makes me want to give a shit. I got a kid that comes from Reading, and I mean, he only comes on Thursdays, but he's at the building an hour and a half before we start. So it makes me go, you know what? What I'm not doing nothing right now. I know he's going to be there an hour and a half. So I try to beat him there. And then I open up the door, and then he's getting an hour and a half's worth of training with me before any other student shows up. Because as a coach, as a trainer, when you see somebody working hard, because that's what we are looking for. You know, we're not just looking to take your money, we're not just looking to train you. We're trying to put out products, and we're trying to put out products that other people, you know, our peers, our brothers, our sisters, we're trying to put out products that people can go, oh man, I don't care if this guy signed to WWE or not. Zach at Primetime University is putting out some quality talent out here, and we want to use them. These guys are good, and you got to have a good attitude and everything. But that's one thing that I always notice is it's being a gym rat, man. It really is, because you can give me a John Anderson, man. You can give me someone that's just unbelievable. What a physique on him. What a good looking guy. What a star that is. And John had a great attitude, by the way. So I'm not using that as an example, but you can give me a 6'5", 285-pound stud who's been in the gym and he looks amazing and he's a super athlete, maybe even a collegiate athlete, and he's got a shit attitude. And then you could give me the guy who's out of shape and doesn't have as good an athleticism, but has a great attitude, and he's willing to just, he's there, he's putting in the time. I'm going to take that guy over the in shape guy every single time, because that guy right there, I could mold that guy. I can drop weight off that guy. I can get that guy in shape. And that guy has some insecurities and he's humble and we're building him up. This other guy, I mean, he's already in the gym and everybody tells him he's good looking. You know what I mean? He's going out and pulling chicks every night of the week. He's got that confidence there, but it's a shit attitude. So it's what you see in the talent. Like, is this guy showing up? A lot of guys don't show up, or they only show up a very select time, and they want to sit on the apron out there or fucking talk and hang out. Go ahead, talk, hang out. You don't bother me none. You're paying me. I don't give a shit. I used to call people and be like, "Hey man, where are you at?" And they'd be like, "Oh, I don't do it anymore, but it was fun to hear the excuses. You know what I mean? How many times can your grandma die? You know what I mean? How many grandmas do you have? What's really going? Oh man, my tire's flat again. Damn, that's you've been hitting that same fucking nail. Maybe I'm gonna stay off of that fucking road coming to class because it keeps popping your damn tire, man.
Right.
All four tires are flat. Who said I popped all four tires? You know what I mean? So I know you feel the same way on that, man. We got anything else you want to get in? Because I'm looking up here at the clock, bro. The clock is ticking on this going over Word Rumble, and we got about a minute to close this thing out.
That's it, man. I think we kind of hit all the things that I feel like are super important about getting out there and getting opportunities. Right? It's about the hard work. It's about doing the extra stuff. Great attitude. Coming in there. Willingness to learn. Right? Coachability. We talk about all these things, and I think that that's kind of what's going to lead somebody into going from just training at a wrestling school to getting those opportunities. And obviously guys like us, we're going to try to use those guys, over the guys that maybe don't have a good attitude or bad work ethic, things like that. So
you said it though, right there, Paul. Willingness. That's the key word there, man.
Right.
Showing up is half the battle, but that willingness, are you willing to work hard? Are you willing to do whatever it takes? Because I'm willing to say I'm Zach Primetime Reeb, and you're the Wrecking Ball Paul Isadora. And baby, we're going over.